Hi, I'm Luke McIntosh, creator of BecomeABassist.com, and welcome to video 1 of Bass Chord Pro, a free mini-series from BecomeABassist.com all about playing chords on your bass. Now in Bass Chord Pro, we're going to be learning about all kinds of different chords: major chords, minor chords, dominant chords, augmented chords, diminished chords, all kinds of chords that you could ever possibly want to learn on bass. Not only are you going to learn how to play all these chords, but you also learn the best way to voice them so they sound crystal clear and you avoid some of that signature muddiness that can sometimes come with bass chords. This lesson we're just going to be talking about major chords. At first we're going to be talking a little bit about how other instruments play them, and then we're going to be talking about how we as bass players need to modify our approach just a little bit to make them sound as good as possible. Now in this video you'll learn the best shape for playing major chords, and you'll also get a free PDF download with this lesson. So let's get to it. So for this lesson we're going to be using G as our low bass note. Now that's the 3rd fret on our E string, our lowest sounding string, this one right here. Too easy, nothing to it. Now what guitar players or piano players will frequently do when they're playing chords on their instruments is they'll take the notes of the chords and they'll just stack them right on top of each other. So for example, if we're playing a G major chord like we're going to be doing, the notes in a G major chord are G, B, and D. Now if we were to take this same approach that piano and guitar players use and apply it to bass, this is what we do. We take our root note, put it on the bottom, our low G, then we put the next note in the chord, which is a B, that'd be our 2nd fret on our A string, and then a D, we could play open D there, and then of course you could put a high G up there as well. That's also perfectly fine to do. But now what happens when we play all those notes together is we get this sound. Now it doesn't sound bad, but it sounds very muddy, and that's a really bad thing. We don't want to be doing that. We don't want to have this kind of muddiness in our bass chords. So what we're going to do is we're going to find the best way of voicing these kind of chords on a bass, which has really low frequencies. And why is this? It's because the frequencies on the low end of our bass are really close together, so the frequencies kind of fight each other. So while it is technically right, it sounds kind of, it just sounds muddy, it doesn't sound great. And by the way, if you take this same thing and play it up the octave, it sounds way better. Oh, fuck it. Sounds way better up the octave. But for our lessons, we're going to stay in the low end because that's what we do as bass players, play bass. The first thing we're going to do to get rid of this muddiness is take away that high G. So instead of G, B, D, G, we're going to take away that high G. But you notice that it's still pretty muddy because we just took away the highest note and we just talked about the lowest frequencies being the most problematic. But what taking away that G does is it frees up a string. So now we can take some of the notes that were in the low end and we can put them up high. And that's what we're going to do right now. So we're going to take our low G, our B, and our D. But right now we're going to take this B right here, our 2nd fret on our A string. We're going to take that note up the octave, but not up the whole neck, up to here. We're going to take it up 2 strings and up 2 frets. So it'll end up being the 4th fret on our G string. So instead of this B, we're going to play this B on our G string. So now we have this. We have our low G, we skip our A string, nothing on the A string, we've got our D string, open D string, and then we've got our B on top. And because we've taken away that close interval here, this one, particularly muddy sounding interval, we've taken that and made it sound like this. Much nicer, much more clarity, a lot less muddiness, very pleasing, very pleasing. So now we have G, open D, B. So we have 3, open string on the D, and then 4. Lovely. So we have more space in between our notes, which takes away some of the muddiness and adds some much needed clarity. But there's one more thing we're going to do before we finish up right now. We're going to, instead of playing an open D right here, with the open string right there, we're going to play that D on the 5th fret of our A string. So instead of this D, this D. And So that'll give us G on our E string, 3rd fret, 5th fret on our A string, a D, and then on our G string, the B, fret number 4. And I'm playing this right now, 1st finger on the G, pinky on the D, and middle finger on the B. But you could also play with your ring finger on the B, that also works. And that also helps you bar across this interval right here. This is our shape. This is our default major chord shape. And because this is our shape right here, whatever note you have on the bottom is that major chord. So for example, right now we have a G major chord because that G is playing, our index finger is playing a G on our E string. So it's a G major chord. But if you shift this shape up to having a B flat, now it's a B. If you play this exact same shape, because of course it's all patterns on bass, so it's just the same shape, but now we have a B flat chord instead of a G chord. Pretty cool, right? You just move that shape around, and whatever note is on the bottom, whatever note you're playing on the E string, that's the chord. It's that major chord. So for example, G, A, B major, C major, F sharp major. And you can tell because the note will always be on the bottom right here. Whatever note you're playing on the E string, that's the major chord you're playing. And if it does get down too low, so for example, if you're playing an F major chord, it can get a little muddy down there. So the easiest thing to do that, the easiest way to fix it is just to not play the 5th, not play whatever note your pinky was playing. So you can just play, instantly sounds better, a lot less muddiness, a lot more clarity. And then you can move that shape around as well. During the next few lessons, you'll learn that when we do end up starting to drop notes out, when we start taking notes out of chords, the 5th is usually the first to go. But we'll talk about that in the next few lessons. So to review, we talked about how other instruments played major chords and how we have to modify our approach as bass players to avoid muddiness and gain clarity. We also, we talked about getting rid of the high G, and instead of playing the open G, playing the B instead of down low. And then we also talked about instead of playing an open D, we played the D on the A string. And that's how we came up with our major chord shape. If you like this lesson and want the full mini-series all about bass chords, then head over to becomeabassist.com and sign up absolutely free. It's an 8-part series covering everything you could possibly think of to do with bass chords, from easy simple things like you've just done, to voicing complex jazz harmony using voice leading and all kinds of other fancy stuff. Now, not only will you get the mini-series, but you'll also get all of the latest stuff from becomeabassist.com. Thanks for watching. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next couple of videos, well, the next 7 videos. The very next video, we're going to be talking about how we can take this major chord shape and make them sound even cooler using different inversions, and we'll talk about that in the next video. Thanks for watching. I'm Luke McIntosh, creator of becomeabassist.com, and I'll see you in the very next video. Cheers.